Let's move to the last playoff game of the weekend, also in the NFC, and this is the big old geezer quarterback matchup. Tom Brady, Drew Brees. But really, when you look at it, just look at the first two. There it is from the History Channel. Who made that? This is great.
It's really good.
Yeah, it looks like, never mind. But what I think of, though, guys, not just the quarterbacks here, but the first two matchups, and the Buccaneers and Tom Brady being completely overmatched. Brady, why might that change in the playoffs?
I don't necessarily know that it will. To be quite honest with you, I think one of the reasons when you see, teams play each other twice and one team just dominate, both those games, in large part it's because, look, the personnel is just not a good matchup for what you present, and you could try to overcome or make up for some things scheme-wise, but you can only do so much. And I think one of the things that became apparent is the way this front for the New Orleans Saints takes on that offensive line for the Tampa Bay Bucks, and that, I think it's a mismatch, and then plus the fact that Bruce Arians just isn't willing to run the football enough to provide any sort of a semblance of balance. I'm not saying that Tom Brady necessarily needs it, but their offensive line needs it, and they can run the football when they want to actually do that. So those are two things that I think are working against the Tampa Bay Bucks in this instance. Look, I know they've lost twice, and they should be able to bring with them some things that they feel like they can fit or fix or maybe potentially get over on the Saints, but I just have a hard time believing that the Bucks are going to be able to change drastically like they need to versus the Saints team. That's just a bad matchup for them.
By the way, that graphic where you showed the two old guys on the History Channel, they still didn't look as old as George Blanda did.
No, you're right. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I mean, my dad's 85, and he looked at George Blanda, and he said he looked older than I did in that picture. It's amazing the difference nowadays.
The difference between, having avocados and having, smoking cigarettes.
Correct. And drinking scotch.
Yeah,
That's
right.
exactly right. Look, this game is classic when it comes to the quarterback position because they're two greats. The problem is Brady's playing at such a high level right now, but his defense isn't as good as the Saints defense, and I think that's the biggest difference. Brady pointed it out. Last time they played him, they just totally dominated up front, and this is what I thought would happen last week. I thought Washington would get after Tom Brady in that game with their front. His offensive line was fantastic. They did a great job. They used Gronk to chip and help, and they just kept him at bay. They didn't get any pressure on the quarterback. That's because he got the ball out. Can this team get pressure on him like they did in the last meeting? I think they can, which is why I'm leaning to the Saints. I think their defense is much better. Hey, Tampa Bay's defense was bad last week. Taylor Heineke did everything and anything to them. And Bruce Arians came out and said, look, some of our guys were prepping to play Alex Smith, and they might have let down. Don't let down this week against the Saints because you'll be in big trouble.
It's interesting. Sportsline actually likes the Saints more than the Packers in the NFC. And they kind of have all season. Saints, 35% chance to win the NFC. Packers, just a 30% chance to win the NFC.
I bet they thought they'd get the #1 seed, too.
Well, to them, it doesn't. They don't think it matters. I mean, I think the Saints would have even a better chance if they had the #1 seed. But I'm surprised because the Saints, if they win this game, likely going to have to go to Green Bay. Brady.
Yeah, and look, we can talk about that if and when that happens, all right? There's a lot of Bucs fans who probably don't want to hear us be saying that right now. I think the biggest thing or question that you have in this game is really about the Saints offense. Drew Brees, how effective he can be. Pete kind of pointed it out, or maybe you had said this, but Tom Brady is playing at a much higher level. For a guy who's 43, he's been playing better than Drew Brees, than Phillip Rivers, than Ben Roethlisberger. The only exception being Aaron Rodgers, who's relatively close, but he's about, 7 years younger. So Tom Brady's found the fountain of youth. He's still throwing fastballs, and I think he's gotten more comfortable within this offense as the year's gone on. But the problem is Mike Evans in that knee played last week, didn't look 100%, and Chris Godwin got a case of the drops. And so if that continues to play out, that's a concern too, because the biggest difference I see in the Saints defense in comparison to the Washington football team is the secondary for the Saints and how they're able to match up. They can eliminate guys with a guy like Marshawn Lattimore at the cornerback position is playing at a higher level than anyone in the Washington football team. So that to me is still the biggest hurdle, I think, for this game. But look, if this number got higher to 4 or 5, I'd probably be on the other side. I think this one's actually going to be close. But I like the Saints at the 3 points, and I'll go ahead and take the over. I do think there are going to be some points scored in this one.
And Pete also likes the Saints to cover those 3 points as well. All right, moving on to our NFC players to watch. Brady, once again, you can lead us off.
Yeah, look, I think this one is kind of interesting to me because Tom Brady at 43, this don't want to say it's the last year or last chance we're going to have to watch him, but, he has to play at a really, really high level, I think, in order for them to beat the Saints because, as Pete talked about, that defense isn't playing as well. Bruce Arians is going to put it on his shoulders to win this game, and he's got a tough challenge going up against the defense that's had their number the past 2 times. So I'm really keen in on watching Tom Brady to see if he can put this team on his back and put together one of those historic performances against another future Hall of Famer in Drew Brees, where these guys keep going back and forth with all the records and all that. I think Tom Brady's going to carry that chip on his shoulder a little bit in this one, so I can't wait to watch him.
And Brees is 5-2 against Tom Brady in his career. The only other quarterback with a winning record against Brady is Eli Manning, 3-2.
By the way, you already made this a win and you're done game for either quarterback. So
I'm just saying, it's kind of like WWE. You lose, you're gone. If Vince McMahon, if this was XFL, he'd say that.
So whoever loses, you're putting him out the pasture.
Gone.
They're done. They're done. It's like a racehorse that doesn't win the race. You're putting him out the pasture. Okay, wow, Chris, you're harsh.
Done. Especially if it's
you're the mean man.
Only if it's Drew Brees that loses.
Okay, you're the mean man. My guy to watch is Aaron Rodgers. I just think when you see a guy who's had the year he's had, and he will win the MVP, and all the questions going into the season about Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, could they coexist? Will he be in? He's been better than he's ever been. He is so comfortable in this offense, but he's playing the best defense in the league, and that's going to be a big challenge for him. Like Brady mentioned, if he plays Jalen Ramsey on Davante Adams, where does he go? Who's he get the ball to? Does the ball come out quick? Can they hold up against the pass rush? I think there's so many things at play here, and the pressure is on Aaron Rodgers, but I think the pressure's been on him all year long, and he's going to show people how good he is in this game against the Rams.
I do too, but my player to watch is one of the guys you mentioned that he's going up against, Jalen Ramsey. I want to see does he shadow Davante Adams? Does he contain him enough to keep the Rams in this game? Because if the Rams do get the lead, numbers in their favor. When leading at halftime, Sean McVay 37-0 as a head coach. So if they can get that lead early in Green Bay, they've got a shot to win that game. Those are our players to watch in the NFC. Want to recap the picks from both Pete and Brady. Again, Brady going with the surf and turf, the pick on the line and the over-under.
If I would have picked over-unders too. I don't know. Brady changes the flow here.
But both like the Packers and the Saints, the 2 favorites to not only win but cover.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.